If you've been avoiding shoulder exercises because they feel weak, uncomfortable, or actually cause you more pain, especially if you're between the ages of say 30 to 60, this one you're going to want to tune in for. I'm going to run you through all of the areas that I cover in every one of these coaching videos, which is the setup, the movement, alternative exercises, as well as injury prevention. And this is going to get your shoulders working how they're supposed to, all while adding some much needed muscle mass along the way. Let's jump into the dumbbell shoulder press. So first of all, the setup. I want to get the bench angle covered off first because it's quite important with regards to how you feel sitting down on this bench at the point of setting yourself up with the dumbbells. So if it's leaning too far backwards, which this currently is, then you're going to find that you're using more of your upper chest rather than the delts, the shoulders themselves. If it's too far upright, you're probably going to find that you're trying to lean backwards slightly into the chair, into the bench, and you're overarching or you're pulling your arms back to try and keep your weight loaded over your shoulders. But we'll cover all of that inside of the movement shortly. When it comes to setting this bench up, this is currently a click too low. So if you pull the pin out, or you might have the small J hooks underneath the little latches, this wants to come up one click to begin with. So for me, bringing it up one, this is going to be about the right height. Now the base pad, what I would recommend is you having this on an angle. So some of the benches that you use, these will concertina together. Other benches, maybe not so much. This one's an independent, so you can drop the pad down separate to the back pad. Lift this one up one click too. The reason being is because if it's not, you're going to want to feel like you're sliding off the bench when you're pushing yourself into the bench, anchoring against your shoulder pad up here. So now that we've got the bench set up right, we're not leaning too far back that we're working upper chest. We're not sitting too far upright that we feel like we're overcompensating or feeling like we're flaring the elbows to try and get the dumbbells up and over our heads to begin with. Now we're going to talk about your arm angle. So when you're sat doing a dumbbell press, the thing with the dumbbell press is you'll see a lot of people doing this in a gym. When they're training, they're pulling their elbows completely to the sides because they feel like that's where the delt, the shoulder, is activated. Truth be told, this is probably one of the worst positions you can put your arm in, especially when you're doing this dumbbell shoulder press. And that's because you're actually contracting too much to the rear and not allowing the shoulder to move freely. Everybody's joints are going to move slightly different. So me explaining this to you right this very second, you might find that a small tweak here or there might suit you better, which is perfectly fine. There is absolutely no one singular right in any movement whatsoever. But the angle that you're looking for is about 45 degrees from your body. It's actually not 90 degrees to the side, because that's going to leave you with all kinds of setup problems later on down the line, as well as movement problems that you'll start to feel impingements in the shoulders towards as well. So these are all things to bear in mind. So looking at a 45-degree angle from the body then, so as you're sat in the bench, your arms want to be traveling at 45 degrees when they're bent. At this point, the wrist wants to be stacked over the elbow. So we don't want that weight pulling too far forwards, and we don't want that weight dipping too far into us. It's going to kind of leave you unbalanced when you're setting yourself up. So if you've got your arm pulled all the way back, no good. Pull it to 45 degrees. If you've got your wrist falling forwards or leaning backwards, again, stack it over the elbow. Now we can move to the next phase, which is holding the dumbbells. So when you're getting yourself seated, the thing with the dumbbell press is it can be quite complicated, especially as that weight gets a little bit heavier, to move the weight from the knees, which is naturally where you'd set yourself up to shoulder height to begin with. Some people you'll see swinging them up, some people they'll get them handed to them from a spotter that they might have, but it can be quite complicated. So getting the weight up to begin with can actually be one of the complications to advance this movement a little bit later on down the line. So when we move into the movement section, I'm going to show you how to do this with the dumbbells, but just for now, you stack the weights on your knees. And all you're going to do is give yourself a little flick with that knee to bring that dumbbell up to shoulder height. And like I said to you before, once you've got your wrist stacked over your elbow, you should feel quite stable at that point to be able to move around whilst you've got that dumbbell up over your shoulders. Now at this point, something to note is where you're holding the dumbbell. I'm going to actually show you this. So as you can see right now, holding the dumbbell, you'd be surprised how many people actually hold the dumbbell at the butt of the plate. So if I was to move my hand to the butt of the plate at this point, that is now putting a huge internal rotation on that dumbbell. So if I'm trying to hold this up here, it's naturally now pulling my wrist down towards the floor. If you're lifting your dumbbells with this strange 45-degree angle at the top, this is going to be no good for your wrists, no good for your elbows, definitely no good for your shoulders, and you're not going to move very well at all. So you want to try and find a good middle ground, somewhere that feels comfortable in the middle of the dumbbell, that feels well balanced in the palm of your hand, and so that you can feel that the dumbbell is stacked from your wrist over your elbow. No flexing either way, allowing any additional strain on the wrist whatsoever. And the last two areas of the setup that I want to run through with you is your back arch and your shoulder blades. Now you'll see a lot of people when they set themselves up with a dumbbell shoulder press, where some people might have a really large arch in their lower back. You don't actually need to be pushing the lower back into the bench for this movement. What you're actually looking for is a base from your shoulder blades being anchored onto the bench. So if that means that you can create quite a substantial arch in your back, take this into compensation when you're setting the bench up, because the more arch you have, the more it's going to tilt the chest up, making this more of an upper chest exercise rather than a shoulder exercise. So if you can brace your core without pushing your abs towards the bench, but brace it so it's nice and firm, you should have your shoulder blades planted against the bench and a nice firm core to be able to take the load. Nothing's going to move with your upper torso at this point. Everything's going to be coming from what your elbows, your wrists and your shoulders are doing next. So lastly, talking about the shoulder blades then, the shoulder blades themselves want to be retracted, so pulling them together just so that you've got a nice firm base to work from. So you shouldn't be flaring the shoulder blades, having your shoulders rolled forwards, creating that roundness in the upper back. This is going to leave you to wobble around a lot, especially if you've got some weight that's up and over the shoulder at this point. It's going to kind of make things top heavy. You're top heavy, you've got a lot of weight, it creates a lot of instability. So you can actually get the foundation of this workout completely set up wrong just by the position of where your shoulder blades are placed. So we want to get those shoulder blades pulled back, nicely planted against the bench so it's nice, firm, solid foundation. Get that core braced at the same time, and your glutes ideally anchored into the angle of the bench just so that you've got a firm stability and your feet firmly planted on the floor. Whether you're on your tiptoes or flat feet, doesn't really make a difference. If the bench that you're using doesn't allow you to plant your feet firmly on the floor, even if you're on your tiptoes, maybe consider putting a workout box in front or using some plates that can just raise your feet slightly so that you can get your feet planted nice firmly on the floor, because you're going to need those as part of the drive to push the weight up. So next, we're going to move on to the movement part of this exercise. Two key areas that I want to cover for you: the range of movement, as well as where do we stop when we perform a dumbbell shoulder press. A full range of movement, you're looking at just being off soft lock, which means a slight bend in the elbow at the top. When you're at the bottom, the weight wants to be, so if you think center of the dumbbell, where you're holding the bar in the middle of the dumbbell, that wants to be somewhere around about chin height. So we sort of say between ear and chin is where we want to be, with that center of the bar of the dumbbell stopping at that point. If you're dropping below that, you might find that it's because your shoulders are now rotating downwards to try and get extra range. We don't need extra range. We just need all the range that your shoulder is going to give you. We don't need the rotation to bring that down. So remember, stack that wrist over the elbow. And if you see that elbow pull back to get extra range, you've gone too low. So we're in this position. We've got the 45-degree elbow kicking out to the side. We've got the wrist stacked over the elbow. We've got the bottom range. We kind of know now that it's somewhere between the ear and the chin. The top range is as far up as we can get without locking the elbow or clanging the weights together at the top. Do not be banging the dumbbells together at the top. There is absolutely zero need for that whatsoever. Get those dumbbells up above your head. I will demonstrate this for you in a second, but when that weight's up above your head, there wants to be a gap in between the dumbbells, not together, and when it is up above your head, that weight wants to be loaded over the shoulder joint, not drifting out to the side, not drifting inwards. We want to be over the shoulder because that is exactly the muscle that we're stacking weight against. And last but not least, when you've got this weight up here in the movement section and you've finished your exercise, or you've got to the point of close to failure, get that weight back down to somewhere where you feel stable, that you can lock that elbow into the lat so that you just feel stable, so you're at the end range of the movement here. Bring the weights down to the tops of your knees. So bring your knees slightly up and catch the weight as it comes down. Don't be throwing the weights off to the side, bouncing, going into somebody else's workout space, causing an injury. It could even backfire, bounce and end up cracking you in the shin. I've seen people lose toes because of this when they've dropped dumbbells. Don't be throwing the dumbbells around. There is no need for it. If you're strong enough to get it up, you're strong enough to get it down. So just a quick fire through with the dumbbells so you know exactly what this looks like. We're going to go from the knees as promised. Position, glutes just nice and comfortable in that bend of the seat where the back plate meets the glute base plate. We're going to kick these up one at a time. Up, up, sit back. Shoulder blades pushed against the bench. I've got a small arch in my lower back. My elbows are now sitting at around about 45 degrees from my body. My wrists are in line with my arms. I'm going to push up, slightly arc in. There's a gap at the top. At this point, I know that I'm coming back down somewhere between ear and chin. I'm not rotating down to get extra depth. I'm not dropping the elbows forwards, creating strain on the elbow. At this point, this is my end range, which is my lower chin region for me. I'm going to push straight back up, slight arc in. We're not clanging. Dumbbells at the top. We don't do this. This is not needed. I'm keeping that load straight over the shoulders. And we're going to keep those elbows at 45 degrees at all times while we press. If you're finding that you get some tricep activation in this movement, it might mean that you've either got an imbalance with the shoulder strength or your triceps are slightly stronger than what your shoulders are able to cope with the load. We're not looking for a tricep extension when we extend the elbow. We're actually looking for a contraction within the shoulder to move that weight above our heads. Bring the weight back down safely, and now we're going to move into some alternative exercises. So there's 3-4 different types of exercises that I would recommend that you potentially start doing before you do a dumbbell shoulder press, just to try and build a little bit of strength up that might keep things a little bit more safe for you. And these are a seated, plate loaded or cable loaded shoulder press. So this will be a fixed machine. You don't have to go adding weights around the areas that you're going to be holding. You just literally select the pin or you slide plates onto the machine in itself. And this will kind of keep you locked into a movement pattern, removing the instability. We want to work on the instability because that's going to be something that you're going to need later on down the line. But to get you going, get used to the movement pattern, and just kind of know that the end ranges of where you're moving to, and use these principles of this video to set those machines up too. The next one then is going to be a barbell shoulder press. Now, there are a few different things you need to consider with a barbell shoulder press, which is going to be covered in another video. But for argument's sake, right now, maybe one of the light prefixed barbells that you get off the rack, seating in this position, going to allow you to be a little bit more stable because you're using the same weight across both joints without any kind of instability from either arm. So if you have got a weakness, you might find that using a barbell might be better to begin with, just to get this movement nailed first. There are going to be a few principles that change, like how the weight comes together, how you push. The wrist stacks over the elbows still come in at 45 degrees. Your hands are going to be facing forwards. They're not going to be in line with the arms. And as you press, just remember to clear the chin. I'm not going to be responsible for you losing any of your teeth or cracking the bottom of your chin when you go to push that bar. And that moves me on to the last one, the Smith machine shoulder press. Similar to the barbell, you're going to have to watch your chin as that bar comes down in front of you. Being mindful of how you are maneuvering that. You might not get the complete full extension when you push up just because of the hand positioning again, but the Smith machine will take out some of the instability. If holding that dumbbell over the shoulder to begin with is going to be one of the instability issues. So maybe consider using the Smith machine, a barbell, or the plate loaded or cable loaded machine as an alternative exercise. So moving into the final section, which is the injury prevention, we're going to talk about how your shoulders should be working and what you should be doing to warm these shoulders up before you go lifting any kind of weight before you hit the gym floor. You might be sat there wondering now, why is he using this super band when I've seen people going into the gym to use dumbbells to warm up for shoulder exercises? Well, there's not really actually many movements that you want to be doing with a dumbbell that's going to warm your shoulders up correctly. The reason being is because the exercise that you see people doing, which is probably the one where they stand up with external rotations holding a dumbbell, the dumbbell is actually not doing anything. The dumbbell's putting tension on the bicep at this point, and you're just rotating this weight in and out. What you actually want to do is anchor the super band to a frame. Now at this point, you don't actually need the bench that I'm sat on, but the camera's set up, so we're going to go with it. You're actually going to rotate this band, not a dumbbell, out. Now that's actually going to put tension in the right direction on the shoulder for you to get the shoulder joint warmed up. So you're going to pull this out and back in. Now you've got tension traveling in the right direction to warm the shoulder up. So you can actually do this in the upward rotation too. So if you anchor this to a frame slightly higher, pull that band upright, and make sure when you do this one, you've got your shoulder blade pulled down. Don't allow the shoulder blade to roll forward and then you contract backwards into this. You're bringing two areas very close together. It's likely to end with an impingement. So the last but not least, with the super band, get some face pulls in there. So facing the band in itself, hold the band, you're going to pull. Just get those rear delts warmed up, get the medial part of the shoulder warmed up, internal and external rotations. So you can do those up and over too. At that point, you've got everything warmed up that you need to move the shoulder correctly. But as an alternative, a few stretches that I'm going to throw in there for you too. This is going to help the shoulder move a little bit better. So first of all, we want to make sure we've got no upper chest tightness. So you can simply do this by raising your arm, pulling your arm back, and if you feel a pull on your upper chest into your shoulder, this is the area that you want to be able to free up first. So again, using a frame, using a bar, you can just plant your arm at 90 degrees and just externally rotate away to open this area up. Maybe go a little bit higher to try and open it up a little bit higher if your upper pec is tight. Loosening this area off will stop any of that forward rotation of the shoulder coming forward, and it will actually allow you to move a lot more freely. The next then is what the shoulder's actually doing in each joint. So if you have any kind of impingement by moving your arms through different ranges of movement here, this is what you need to be aware of. So it's usually as you come up and over here that you'll either have a tightness or an impingement in the rear of your shoulder, or as you bring it forward, you might feel something in the front of your shoulder. So if you reach round and put the arm up the middle of the back, pushing the chest forwards and pushing the shoulder back, you should start to feel a stretch on the front of the shoulder here. If you're getting any kind of twinge, any kind of sensation that's saying, maybe I need to be careful about what I'm about to do, this would be the stretch that I'd recommend that you do to open the shoulder up and open that range of movement up from what the front of the shoulder is allowing you to do. If you've got a similar issue going from the back of the shoulder instead of the front of the shoulder, just bring the arm up and across the body. Pull it in with your other hand and just allow the shoulder to relax. You should feel a very slight stretch being pulled across the back of the shoulder here. Again, this will allow you to free up any range of movement that you're looking for, eradicate any kind of impingement, so from the front and from the rear, allowing the shoulder to move freely through that 45-degree angle. And to finish off, a good practice with any exercise is grab a light weight to begin with. Use one of the lighter dumbbells to just go through the range of movement. Even if you are starting with light weights to begin with, pick up one that's even lighter. Everybody can move a 2-kilo dumbbell to start with. Get that up over your shoulder and practice that range of movement that you're going to go through. Note where you're stopping, where you're starting, how you're activating, the angles that everything's stacked at. Pre-program your body to understand what it's like to be in that stacked position before you go and press any kind of heavy dumbbell. So hopefully if you've made it this far, you're going to feel a lot more confident about building shoulder strength or addressing any of the issues that you've been suffering with up to this point. Now, YouTube recommends this next video, and hopefully it's another one out of the coaching series, which you can actually find on the playlist to these videos. But if it's not, and it is the podcast, chances are you're going to find some value there too. All the links for everything you can find down below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care.